Have you noticed that sometimes your silence bothers you more than 1,000 words? You know that tense work environment where the air seems heavy and even without anyone saying anything, you feel like they're talking about you behind your back. Where do you walk into a room and notice that the conversations change, the eyes cross, and suddenly you become the center of a silent trial with no right to defense? Maybe you're living it right now. And the worst, even though you are professional, dedicated and discreet, there is always someone trying to undermine your image, spread gossip, distort your gestures and words, all to sabotage you without leaving a trace. A mean comment there, a disguised joke here, and voila, your reputation begins to crumble without you even realizing it. But what if I told you that you don't need to fight back or get into the dirty game of these colleagues? What if I told you that there is a way to turn the tide, to disarm any saboteur in the workplace without saying anything at all? Yes, being silent can be your most lethal weapon. But calm down. I'm not talking about being passive, mute, or swallowing everything quietly. I'm talking about a strategic, intelligent silence that confuses the enemy, disarms attacks, and positions you as someone unchanging, unshakable, and respected. Have you ever felt like you're being watched at work, as if you're a threat? That no matter how much you do everything right, there's always someone trying to destabilize you emotionally. This is not your impression. It is the reality of thousands of professionals who face conflicts in the workplace every day. Intrigues, gossip, subtle manipulations. All of this is part of a psychological game that, if you don't learn to deal with it, can cost you your peace, your mental health, and even your job. And here's a hard truth that few people have the courage to say. In the corporate environment, those who work the most don't always win. Those who know how to protect themselves win. Many people believe that in order to deal with sabotage at work, it is necessary to impose yourself, confront, justify yourself. But the truth is that in most cases, the more you talk, the more you give ammunition to those who want to take you down. Have you ever noticed how the biggest manipulators are the ones who provoke you to lose control? They wait for your reaction. They count on her. Because the moment you explode, defend yourself too much, or try to explain too much, you fall into the role they want you to occupy, that of someone who is nervous, problematic, unstable. Now imagine the opposite. You are accused, provoked, tested, but instead of taking the bait, you simply look into the eyes, smile slightly, and remain silent. You don't confirm, you don't deny. He does not lower himself nor exalt himself. You just stand there, calm, focused, and in control. This, my friend, dismantles any saboteur, because silence is disconcerting. Silence makes the other question their own narrative. Silence shows that you're not playing their game, and that makes you untouchable. A lot of people ask me, but what if I don't do anything? Won't they keep trying to harm me? And the answer is, they will try, yes. But when you master the art of strategic silence, what was once an attack becomes a failed attempt. And nothing destabilizes a saboteur more than repeated failure. Now, check it out. This video is not for those who want to be nice and please everyone. This video is for you who are tired of justifying yourself, who have already understood that the environment where you work can be a psychological minefield and that you can no longer be naive. Today, I'm going to show you how to use silence as a tool of power, how silence can be more powerful than shouting, how not to respond may be the best answer. And the best, you will learn to do this without hiding, without looking weak, without giving the image of someone who does not know how to defend themselves. Quite the opposite. You will become strategically invisible to attacks, but increasingly visible to respect. So stay with me, because in the next few minutes you'll figure out how to apply this technique, and maybe even realize that you've suffered more than you needed to, simply because you didn't know the right time to shut up. And before I show you this technique, I want you to think now about someone from your work, that person who seems to always be keeping an eye on what you do, who disguises with smiles, but always finds a way to diminish you, poke you, or erase you in front of others. Have you ever thought about it? So stay here with me, because in the next few seconds, you will understand why this person fears exactly what is most powerful about you: silence. You know that person at work who is always smiling, but behind the scenes is setting you up. The one who, in meetings, throws hints unintentionally, tries to interrupt you when you're saying something important, or even repeats what you said, as if the idea was hers. The name of this is psychological game, and behind this game is a hidden strategy that most people don't realize, but that you need to learn to identify now. Saboteurs do not attack by chance. They don't tease you randomly. Everything is coldly calculated. They expect one specific thing: your emotional reaction. Yes, they want you to blow up. They want you to get angry, justify yourself, raise your voice, or even isolate yourself, because the moment you react, you deliver exactly what they want: behavior that can be used against you. And in the work environment, where image is almost everything, it only takes one emotional slip to put you as uncontrolled, aggressive, unstable, or unprofessional. They know that, and they play with it all the time. This is how these corporate handlers operate. They create scenarios where it seems like you are the problem, when in fact you are the victim. And they do this through subtle, often imperceptible, but highly effective techniques. Want to see how it works? First, they plant gossip. Sometimes it's something small, casually said. "Oh, so-and-so seems a little arrogant, right?" Or, "The boss has been weird lately, did you notice?" This type of comment doesn't sound offensive right away, but it does create small cracks in the image you've built with others. Then come the provocations disguised as a joke. A nickname here, a little joke there. When you question, they say you're exaggerating, that it was just a joke. But inside, you're already eating away, feeling anger, injustice, the urge to fight back. And that's where the lowest blow comes: the subtle, public humiliations, disguised as feedback or opinion. Sometimes this happens in front of your boss or team. The person raises a mistake of yours in a constructive way, but the tone, timing, and intent are purely to expose you. And the worst, if you respond aggressively or defend yourself too much, you fall into the trap. You become, in their narrative, someone who doesn't know how to receive criticism, doesn't accept to be corrected, or takes everything personally. That's exactly what the saboteur wants. He doesn't want to destroy you with a direct attack. He wants to bring you to the point where you destroy yourself in the eyes of others. And it all starts with your emotional reaction. When you let yourself be affected, you become unpredictable. And when it becomes predictable, it becomes controllable. But look, you can get out of this game. You can flip the board completely over without having to say a single word. And I'll show you how it starts. The most powerful weapon against a saboteur is what I call active silence. It is not to be silent and swallow frogs. It is to be silent with presence, with intention, with mastery of the situation. It is to observe every gesture, every word, every attempt at manipulation, and not to respond on impulse, because when you don't react as they expect, you cause an effect that dismantles the entire structure of their attack. They expect you to be annoyed, you stay calm, they want you to justify yourself, you just observe. They accuse you indirectly, you answer with a slight smile and silence. They raise the tone, you lower the intensity. They despair to generate an effect, you just don't give them what they want. And that, my friend, drives any manipulator crazy. Because silence in the workplace is a brutal psychological power. It shows that you are in control. It shows that you are not predictable. It shows that you know what's going on, but you're not going to stoop to the level of the person who's trying to bring you down. When you react, you're on their stage. When you shut up and watch, you're in the audience. And the saboteur exposes himself. It's as if the tables have turned. That person who wanted to destabilize you is now lost, not knowing what their next move will be. She tries again, and nothing. She tries to entangle you in conversation, and you answer firmly and in few words. She expects you to counter, and you just keep delivering results. Meanwhile, others, including your boss, neutral colleagues, or even superiors, begin to notice the contrast between your poised posture and the uncontrolled behavior of those trying to attack you. That contrast is everything, because you didn't have to prove anything. You didn't have to scream. You did not have to ask for justice. You just took control of the narrative, speechless. But what if I keep quiet and they think I'm scared? You may be wondering. Let me tell you something important. Fear is what you feel when you are lost. Silence is what you choose when you know exactly where you are. There is nothing more powerful than responding with posture, with presence, with serenity. This is not weakness. This is self-control. That's emotional intelligence at its sharpest. And this isn't just about you looking more professional. It's about protecting your mental health, about not getting carried away by other people's games, about preserving your image, your energy, and your professional evolution. And you know what? Saboteurs feed on the emotional chaos they themselves cause. It's like fuel for them. Every nervous response, every exaggerated justification, every outburst out of turn. All of this is written down, replicated, and used against you at strategic moments. They know exactly how to twist everything to paint you as unbalanced. But when you don't feed that fire, they burn by themselves. Therefore, whenever you feel that almost uncontrollable urge to respond on time, to rebut, to explain yourself, take a deep breath and remember it here. Whoever is silent at the right time confuses even the most experienced manipulator. That's the game. And now that you know how it works, you can start turning the tables. And I know you might be thinking, okay, being silent is powerful, but how do I use it on a daily basis? How to apply it without seeming distant or passive? Stay here with me, because now we're going to get into something even deeper. The active silence technique, and how it can become your biggest competitive advantage in the workplace. And this is exactly where the turning point begins. When you understand that silence is not the absence of reaction, it is the most strategic reaction you can have. What most people don't understand is that active silence has nothing to do with passivity, quite the opposite. While the passive swallows everything quietly, shrinks and fades away, active silence is the opposite of this. It is pure presence. It is being there, whole, conscious, but without getting carried away by the emotional trap that the other is trying to build. It's about occupying space with your behavior, not with your speech. Do you want to know how this works in practice? It starts with your body posture. Yes, your body speaks, and he speaks loudly. When you adopt a firm posture, straight shoulders, a direct gaze, a neutral and confident expression, you are already commanding respect without saying a single word. In the work environment, where so many hide behind the talk, those who master the body with awareness become a point of reference in the room. Do you know when someone enters a meeting and without even opening their mouth already draws attention? This is no coincidence. It is nonverbal communication mastered with intention. Now combine that with the power of the gaze, the direct but calm gaze, not confrontational. You're not attacking. You're showing that nothing that's happening shakes you, that you are there, watching everything, and that every malicious word, every attempt at provocation is being recorded. The look in silence bothers much more than defensive speech, because he delivers a clear message. I see you, and I know exactly what you're trying to do. This combination, posture plus gaze, creates a magnetic, respectable, even intimidating presence for those who live from the theater of words. And then comes the next layer of this strategy, silent listening. This is a turning point for those who live surrounded by gossip, intrigue, manipulation, because in the toxic work environment, many people talk to manipulate, but few realize that those who listen well discover everything. When you silence at the right time and let the other speak, something magical happens. People, especially those who try to manipulate you, have a natural tendency to want to fill the silence. They want to appear in control, and in this eagerness, they end up giving too much. You don't have to bat. You don't have to prove you right. You just need to listen carefully and allowing the other to reveal more than they would like. Have you noticed this? How many times does a colleague start to justify themselves too much, even when you didn't even ask? Anything? Or does he repeat the same version of the facts with different words, as if he wanted to convince you of something that he was not even in doubt? This happens because your silence creates discomfort. He forces the other to face himself. And when the person has guilt or hidden intention, silence is like a mirror. It shows everything. That's why the phrase, well-applied silence, is like a mirror. It makes the other face each other isn't just pretty. It's functional. It's real. And when applied in the professional environment, it becomes a tool of protection and power. Now let me tell you a detail that few use, but that completely transforms your silent communication. The dramatic pause. Yes, the pause. That moment where you're in a tense meeting, someone throws a provocation in the air, hoping that you react, that you get in the way, that you lose your balance, and you just pause, you breathe, you don't respond right away. You let the silence dominate the room for 5 seconds. Seems little, right? But in the fast-paced world of impulsive speech, those who master the timing of the response dominate the perception. The strategic pause conveys that you think before you act, that you don't get carried away by emotion, and that your every word has a weight. This generates immediate respect. What's more, when you respond after the pause, in a calm and firm tone of voice, you take control of the conversation. It doesn't matter what has been said before. The last, well-placed word, spoken with emotional authority, keeps echoing in everyone's minds. Do you want an example of this? Imagine someone saying, with that classic passive-aggressive tone, "So-and-so, I think you didn't quite understand what was to be done." The environment is already starting to get strange. Everyone expects you to stand up for yourself, justify yourself, or get into an argument. But you, who master active silence, breathe, look firm, pause for 2 seconds, and answers, "Actually, I understood perfectly. It just wasn't my responsibility." Ready, without changing, without prolonging it, without giving in to the theater. The impact is immediate. Now he thinks about the power of applying this same strategy to emails. How many times have you received that passive-aggressive email full of hints or mean charges? The desire is to respond on time, right? With a text, explanations, links, prints, proofs. But the smartest thing is to breathe, wait, reread, calmly and respond with strategic objectivity. No "how dare you," no exaggerated emotion. You answer accurately without getting emotional, and sometimes it just doesn't respond immediately. His temporary silence is already a warning. I don't act on impulse, and you're not going to manipulate me. This type of silent communication creates a shield around you. People think twice before teasing you. They avoid direct confrontations because they realize that you are not easy to bend. And more than that, you start to inspire other colleagues who are also suffering in silence but don't know how to protect themselves. You become a control reference, class, of emotional intelligence, and even without saying anything, he begins to be heard. Now, if everything I've said so far is making sense to you, I want you to tell me in the comments. Have you ever used silence as a weapon at work? Or have you ever regretted having talked too much when it would have been better to keep quiet? Comment, "Here, silence is power," or "I've already fallen into the trap of reaction," because it's going to show me that you're with me on this journey and that you're ready to master the next step, because what comes next is even deeper. The exact situations in which silence is your salvation in the workplace, and how to identify these pitfalls before you fall again. And this is where the game starts to get more dangerous. and also more revealing. Because now that you understand the power of active silence, you need to learn when speaking up becomes a real risk to your professional image. Yes, there are times when opening your mouth, no matter how fair or necessary it may seem, may be exactly what the toxic environment expects of you. It may be what the saboteur needs to frame you as the problematic, the difficult, the emotional. What happens is that in the corporate world, impulsive speech is fuel for destructive narratives. And unfortunately, people will not always analyze the full context. The truth is that many times, the way you react will be judged more than what was done to you. And if you don't know how to identify these moments of emotional trap, you will fall into traps that sink careers, undermine reputations, and trap you in cycles of continuous psychological exhaustion. Let's start with a classic situation, and one that can happen to anyone: the false accusation. Have you experienced this? Someone points the finger at you unfairly, drops a phrase in the middle of a meeting, or comments to other people that you did something wrong, even though they know it wasn't quite like that. And the most revolting, sometimes the person who accuses you is precisely the person who made a mistake, but is trying to invert the narrative to protect his own skin. At that moment, everything in you screams for justice. Your mind wants to explain, to prove, to rebut. It's natural. But ironically, it is precisely in this impulse of defense that the risk lies. When you get up in the heat of the moment, with your eyes boiling with indignation, and start talking loudly or justifying yourself too much, even if you are right, you lose. Because what others see is not their truth. They see an altered professional trying to protect themselves, emotionally over-involved. It's cruel, I know, but that's how workplace theater works. And in these cases, silence is not cowardice. It is strategic self-protection. You need to learn to be suspicious of the timing of provocation. If the accusation came in the middle of a meeting, if it was made in front of the boss, if it was played in an ambiguous way, understand, it's not just a criticism, it's a trap. It's an attempt to activate the emotional part of you so that you react as they want you to, and then use their reaction against you. What to do in these cases? Take a deep breath. Keep your gaze steady, but calm. And if you need to say something, say as little as possible. Something like, "I'd rather talk about it later," calmly and with the right data. Or simply write it down, visually. Grab a pen and write. This attitude completely changes the perception of those who are watching the scene. Do you know why? Because while the other seems desperate for attention and response, you show dominance. You don't react, you plan. And those who plan dominate the environment. Another common and extremely treacherous situation is when colleagues try to pull you into gossip. It seems harmless. A loose comment in the hallway, a joke in the coffee group, a criticism disguised as an outburst about someone on the team. And it is in this apparent lightness that the danger lies. Because when you enter this conversation, even if it's just listening or laughing in the corner, you're already engaged, it's already in the game. And when the comment leaks, and it always does, your name will be in the middle. And worse, they may say that you were the one who started it. What if you try to explain yourself later? It's over. No one listens anymore. His image has already been glued to the label of gossip, fake, or manipulative, just because you wanted to appear friendly, informal, or of the group. The best reaction in these moments? Silence and distancing. You don't need to isolate yourself, of course, but he needs to position himself with elegance. When someone tries to pull you into this type of conversation, smile lightly and change the subject, or simply say, "I'd rather not." And comment on that. And that's it. You don't lose anything with it. On the contrary, you earn respect, and above all, protect yourself. And now we come to one of the most difficult situations of all, the provocation in front of the boss. This is a classic one. The colleague who pokes you, who throws an indirect, who jokes with something serious, all this in front of the leadership, hoping that you lose control. Sometimes it's a comment on your productivity. Sometimes it's about a delivery that hasn't been ready yet. Or even something personal like a sarcastic tone. Now so-and-so has become the hardest working on the team, right? It's uncomfortable. It's humiliating. And the will is to respond on the spot. But then I ask you, what image do you want to leave for your leader? That of someone who needs to defend himself with every comment, or that of someone who doesn't stoop to this kind of cheap provocation? At times like this, his not speaking is his cry of superiority. It's proof that you're on another level. And again, those who are watching notice this. The chief notes, the team notices, even the saboteur notices. And when he realizes that it doesn't affect you anymore, that his words don't take you off track, he starts to lose strength. He loses credibility. Because every manipulator depends on the victim's reaction to have an impact. Without a stage, he becomes just another one at the back of the room. And that's where the most important point of this episode comes in. Respond with actions, not words. Do you want to prove that you didn't make a mistake? Show it with results. Want to prove you're a pro? Be punctual, deliver with quality, keep your standard high. Want to show that you're above gossip? Ignore it. Work, grow, be quiet, and go up, because there is no stronger answer than constant delivery. The saboteur wants a stage. You respond with performance. He wants an audience. You deliver excellence. And do you know what happens? Over time, the tables turn. People who once doubted you start to admire you. And those who tried to bring you down realize that they no longer have emotional access to their interior. You become armored, untouchable, silent but lethal, discreet but strategic, silent but heard by all. And that's what we always hit the key about, because there are situations in which silence not only saves your image, but also elevates you to a new level of respect. Situations in which silence is the greatest form of leadership that exists. And it is at this point that everything begins to change, when you internalize that silence is not weakness, it is not omission, it is not passivity, but concentrated power, applied emotional intelligence, and above all, pure strategy. You transform. And it's not just a transformation of posture, it's a transformation of professional identity. You start noticing the gazes changing around you. Colleagues who used to test you now watch you more cautiously. Those who used to make unfunny jokes in your presence start to measure your words better. Even leaders who perhaps once saw you as someone reactive start to see you with different eyes, because now you are no longer the professional who is easily shaken. You are the professional who says little but delivers a lot, who doesn't get involved in nitpicking but has a voice where it really matters. And the most interesting thing is that you don't have to announce this change. You don't need to say, "Now I'm like this." People will notice, because its silence, when used well, speaks louder than any defensive speech. From the moment you master this art of silencing strategically, you begin to notice a curious phenomenon. Manipulators become insecure. They don't know where to hit you anymore. They test, poke, tease, and you just don't respond. It does not take the bait. He doesn't fall for the game. This completely disarms their narrative. And here comes the real impact. You become unattainable. Not in the sense of being unattainable or superior, but in the sense of no longer being emotionally accessible to those who want to affect you negatively. You close the door to the invisible attack, to the disguised manipulation, to the emotional traps. You protect your mental territory, and when that happens, something even bigger reveals itself. You stand out, because in an environment where the majority still reacts in the heat of the moment, where many defend themselves too much, explain too much, try to please too much, you become the person who preserves himself, who doesn't give his emotions away on a platter. This does not go unnoticed. The maturity that silence reveals puts you on a new level. You start to be noticed as someone centered, reliable, with above-average emotional intelligence. And that kind of insight is all too valuable in competitive corporate environments. Respect begins to come naturally, including those people who, deep down, never cheered for you. It's curious, isn't it? But even those who hated you, those who underestimated you, those who tried to sabotage you, begin to respect your presence. Because even if they don't like you, they'll recognize one thing: you're no longer easy to manipulate. And that changes everything. Because at the end of the day, it's not about being silent out of fear, it's about being silent by strategy. It's about knowing that you don't have to prove anything to anyone, because your behavior, your results, and your consistency speak for you every day. And look, you can be sure, well-applied silence in an environment where everyone talks too much, exposes themselves too much, sells themselves too much, is a brutal differential. He protects you, it positions you, he strengthens you, and you know what? This behavior begins to spread. Other people start using you as a reference. Colleagues who also feel suffocated by toxic environments start to be inspired by you. You become an island of peace in the midst of chaos. You become the point of balance, the presence that conveys security, even without saying anything. And that's where you really understand. You don't need to shout to be heard. In the dirty game of work, those who remain silent with strategy win with respect. This phrase carries a powerful truth, because sometimes you'll be challenged just to see if you lose the line. You'll be provoked just to lose control. You will be wronged just to react badly and confirm what they said about you. But when you master silence, you break down all these traps with a single gesture: the choice not to react, the choice to observe, breathe, maintain posture, and let time reveal who is who. And look, if you've made it this far in this video, it says a lot about you. It says that you are not here by chance, that you feel in your skin what it is like to be in a professional environment full of inflamed egos, power games, gossip disguised as friendship, and subtle manipulations that drain you every day. It says that you are ready, or at least decided, to no longer fall victim to it. And more, that you want to turn the key, that you want to protect your energy, your image, your mental health, and your professional trajectory. So, before moving on to the content that comes next, which is even heavier, because we're going to talk about another cruel and silent strategy, which is indifference as a weapon against saboteurs, I want to make you 3 very important requests. First, if this video helped you, subscribe to the channel now. Here you will find frequent, practical, and surgical content to shield you emotionally at work, help you deal with toxic environments, and position yourself with respect and strategy without having to change who you are. Second, leave the like if you made it to the end. It shows that you are with me and helps this video reach more people who are going through the same pain as you. It may not seem like it, but a simple click of yours can be what makes this content reach someone who is about to give up because of a hostile environment. Third, comment below the phrase, "Now I am unattainable." Simple as that. This phrase, in addition to sealing what you have learned here, also serves to show that you are determined to apply this in your routine. Write it down. Now I'm unattainable. And finally, don't leave the channel now. Click on the next video that is appearing on the screen. In it, I'll show you how to use indifference strategically, coldly and surgically, to end the emotional influence that certain people still have on you at work. It's the direct continuation of what we've seen here, and you won't want to miss it. I'll meet you there.